Hey, hey, don't you know? Thanks for coming to Dank Times Dank Podcast, episode 74, with me, Angelo Grosso. And I want to kick it off right away by saying I've shit on the country of Saudi Arabia quite a lot during my podcasting career. However, I will praise them this week based on the Panama Papers. Panama Papers? Is that what they're called? Yeah, the thing that just got released. There was two whistleblowers report released the last couple of weeks. One was the Panama Papers about, rich people hiding money, and the other one was the Facebook whistleblower. I talked about both the last few podcasts. And by the way, are we done pretending that the fact that rich people hide money is surprising? At this point, there is a whistleblower release of information every 2 to 3 years, and nothing ever gets fucking done. So, I heard about something that the Saudi Arabia did by then Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, for those of you that like acronyms. He's the guy that butchered and killed that Kogi journalist. No big deal. No big deal. And I'm not a huge fan of MBS, but I feel like if I talk too freely, I'll get paid a visit by some people that I don't want come into my house, if you catch my drift. So, instead of shitting on MBS, because he's a murderer, I will instead praise the Crown Prince by applauding what he did to a point. I'm going to read you what he did, and let's just chill out here. I think it's something that we should do a little bit. Maybe we should sprinkle a little bit of Saudi Arabian justice on some of these wealthy individuals that would rather steal from us for decades of billions of dollars in taxes, even though they really wouldn't be a company, say Amazon, without the consumers. And instead of paying taxes, so that the consumers not only get a good product, but then get a good way of life, because, society's better when everyone pays their fair share. Instead, they hide it and lie about it and then scoff about it and then build penis-shaped rockets and shoot them out into space for 20 minutes. So my point being, let me read you what is called the 2017 Saudi Arabian Purge. The 2017 Saudi Arabia Purge was the mass arrest of a number of prominent Saudi Arabian princes, government ministers, and business people on November 4th, 2017, and a few following the next few weeks after the creation of an anti-corruption committee led by the one and only Crown Prince MBS. There are three alternate hypotheses regarding the motives behind the purge: a genuine corruption crackdown, a project to gain money, or preparing to take over the crown. I'm not going to go into Saudi Arabian politics or any of that bullshit, but here is what it did. The detainees were confined at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, which subsequently stopped accepting new bookings and told guests to leave. I wonder why. Private jets were also grounded to prevent suspects from fleeing the country. The arrests resulted in the final sidelining of the faction of the king. I don't give a fuck about these people. Here we go. As many as 500 people were rounded up in the sweep. Saudi Arabian banks froze more than 2,000 domestic accounts as part of the crackdown. And according to the Wall Street Journal, the Saudi government targeted cash and assets worth up to $800 billion, with a B, baby, billion. The Saudi authorities claimed that amount was composed of assets worth around $300 billion to $400 billion that they can prove was linked to corruption. Attorney General at the time said in a statement that the arrests were merely the start of a vital process to root out corruption wherever it exists. He added that those detained would have access to legal counsel and pledged to hold trials in a timely and open manner. By the way, King MBS then appointed 26 new judges. I wonder who they're going to vote for. Or I wonder who they're going to side with. The Anti-Corruption Committee ended its mission on January 30th, 2019. So, what is that? Just over 2.5 years. Concluding that 381 individuals were ordered, some of them to hear their testimony, and 107 billion was recovered to the state treasury as a result. Many commentators claim that the move appeared to end the structure of consensus-based governance in Saudi Arabia and may create strain within the Saudi royal family. Who gives a fuck? So then there's a list of people who were detained, but it's interesting to see that a number of royals, a number of politicians, military officers, businessmen and professionals, and clerics were all part of this. Let's not, mince words. These rich people were getting tortured. Now, without probable cause or evidence, I would say that if these kind of people were rounded up and tortured until they wrote a check, that is wrong. However, if there was evidence that these people, or a number of these individuals, were in fact cheating the system with corruption, hiding money, money laundering, all of those things, and then they get tortured and then write a check, I don't feel so bad. So let me paint this picture for you. I am not saying that this should happen in America. However, are you telling me you wouldn't love to hear that Joe Biden wrote a executive order saying that a number of individuals are going to get arrested with legal counsel, brought into a Trump hotel, and just put bamboo shoots under their fingernails, maybe a little bit of waterboarding, light torture, and show them, well, by the way, here is the evidence we have of you hiding money, or of your corruption, or of your whatever. So, do you sign this saying that it is true? And your legal counsel can tell you what to do as your, thumbs are getting hammered with a nail. But it's true. We have evidence. This is a anti-corruption team that was created solely for the purpose of recouping money that should have been paid to the state regardless. So if you heard that Joe Biden signed an order like this, and I don't know, let's pick somebody, a Joe Manchin. He is a corrupt politician. I don't need to tell you why. If you have a brain on your shoulders and aren't half a tard, you understand this. And if I found out that he was getting waterboarded with his daughter, and let's say someone like a Katie Porter or a AOC or I don't know if Amy Klobuchar would be a good person, but someone is asking them, by the way, did you hide the Durka money and instead you use that money to buy a yacht? And to his daughter, did you raise EpiPen prices 400% just so that you could buy another wing onto your already gigantic mansion? Calmly asking them these questions as they're getting waterboarded, as the mansion's lawyer behind them is saying, you don't have to answer that, but it doesn't look good. I would jump in joy and go dancing in the streets when mansions write them a check saying, okay, we'll never do this again. And we have that in writing. And that could either be a check or just, proof that they signed this. And instead of putting them to jail, they just get waterboarded for a few days and be kicked out of the government and have them take their new steps of life. Is that so wrong? Think of it if they did it with Elon Musk. Let's say he's getting bamboos put underneath his nails and flipped up, and his one by one, his fingernails are getting popped off, and they tell him, we don't want to be doing this. You've done so much for the economy, Elon, but you just don't pay your fair share of taxes. Here's proof of this. Now, do you agree? Now, that may be a bad example because he is part android, but I would feel the pain would hit him initially. And then sure, then you stop. He signs the pledge, and then he writes you a check for a couple $2 billion, and then you move on to the next rich cunt. Is that so wrong? See, this is where I think America is too coddling of the wealthy and the elite. We've seen that it works in one of our allies in the Middle East. This worked. They got billions and hundreds of billions of dollars put back into the government. Now, are we to say that the Saudi Arabian government did, quote-unquote, the right thing with that money? Fuck if I know. But the fact that they did a purge of anti-corruption involving all these different kinds of people and groups of people, I fucking love it. Sign me up. Sign me up. As long as there's ample evidence, and as long as it's not a power grab, and as long as it's not like some deep-rooted takeover of large businesses a la Vladimir Putin did in Russia. That I don't want. So the anti-corruption team would have to be just that. Anti-corruption, and that is it. No other ulterior motives, which is hard to do because if you're in Washington, D.C., up there in the federal government like you are, odds are you have some ulterior motives. So I will end this by saying maybe Saudi Arabia has some good points after all. Maybe we should bring them over to our country. And a purge, based on those movies, it's kind of a bad idea to call it the purge. I prefer the term financial cleansing, And maybe outside of the Trump Tower, Trump Hotel, where we're doing these tortures, we set up a circle of giant guillotines. And that way we know that they know that we mean business. Anyway, I don't think I'm out of line here. I'm probably going to get sent a letter in the mail or something, or some goons are going to come to my door after this. But I'm telling you, I'm praising you, MBS. Are you a monster? Yeah, probably. Yeah, actually, yeah, yes, I will say that. Yes, you are a monster. But that doesn't mean a monster doesn't have good ideas every now and then. Speaking of depraved billionaires, I'm sure you all heard that Jeff Bezos is taking William Shatner's 90-year-old old dumpy ass out in space because he was in a TV series and movie series about space. Bring that motherfucker up. I don't know why Jeff Bezos picked, of all the civilians of the world, he decided to take a fake astronaut or William Shatner, a Star Trek character. What the fuck is his Kirk something? Captain Kirk? He's not an astronaut. He's a fake ship captain, It's like, why don't you take Johnny Depp out on a real pirate ship and say, well, you know what we're doing here. Stupid. Wouldn't you want to take someone who actually has devoted their life to, like, the study of astrophysicists or astrophysics? Fuck. You know who they should have brought up? There was that poor fuck who went out in '69 to the moon when Buzz Aldrin and Louis Armstrong. Yeah, the trumpet player Louis Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, when they first walked on the moon, there was a third jabroni in the capsule that didn't get out. They said that he had like a little tiny square of a window where he could kind of peek out, but he was sitting in the capsule as everybody else, the two jabronis, were out there running around. If I'm Jeff Bezos, I'm taking that poor fuck out into space. If anyone deserves it, it's him. By the way, what is that guy's name? Third guy to the moon, but who didn't get out. Hell is his name? Michael Collins. Yeah, technically he was the loneliest human outside of Earth, whatever that stupid thing is. Yeah, that's right. As Michael Collins piloted Apollo 11, spacecraft Columbia orbiting 60 miles above the lunar surface, he was completely alone each time. Wait, is that the guy? Who went to the moon but did not walk? Yeah, Michael Collins. This fucking thing was even about him. It's about another mission. That's who I would take up there, but instead, you take an actor? An actor. Well, I love the Star Trek movies. Well, you know what, asshole? I love the Star Wars movies. I love Lord of the Rings movies. And if I, become a metal wielder and start making swords and shit, I'm not going to call Elijah Wood and be like, hey, you're in one of my favorite movies of all time, so I made you this giant sword, right? He's going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm just an actor. Now, that was a bad analogy. But you get my point. And by the way, fuck William Shatner. He's 90 years old. Is he even going to survive walking up the fucking stairs to get in the rocket? And by the way, they had to postpone it because of inclement weather. I just don't get it. Again, the guy's not paying his fucking taxes. Jeff Bezos. I don't know about William Shatner's taxes. I assume William Shatner is up to date on his taxes, but who the fuck knows? And instead of paying your goddamn taxes, you're building dick rockets throwing fat old actors in rocket ships and blowing them out into space because of emotions? Go fuck your mother, Jeff Bezos. That's ridiculous. And so you would think, okay, if Joe Biden's not going to do a Saudi Arabia financial cleansing, and if Jeff Bezos continues to just rub it in our faces about his obese, disgusting amount of wealth, surely President Biden will do something about it. Well, he is doing what's called a tax crusade. Although some people say, which I agree, it's putting privacy at risk yet again. What's inside America's wallets? Uncle Sam wants to know. President Joe Biden's $3.5 trillion budget plan includes a proposal to let the IRS monitor the bank balances, payments, and receivables of individual citizens in an effort to curb tax evasion. And by the way, we don't get to say yes or no on this. It would cover every bank transaction over, wait for it, $600. And when coupled with an inevitable shift from traditional money to government-issued digital currencies, constitute a glaring, perhaps unconstitutional invasion of personal privacy. What the fuck, Joe? $600? $600. Do you know who's evading taxes? It's not people that have transactions over $600. It's people that have transactions over $600 million. Okay? It's almost like, hey, Joe Biden here. We gave you some stimulus money about a year ago. Yeah, we're going to have to get that paid back soon. So I'm going to start taking a look at your fucking bank accounts, okay? I'm going to open up your Venmo and your Zelle and figure out where the fuck... Why did you send Corey $40 for, huh? What the fuck are you talking about? This is not going to make a fucking dent in where it really needs to be made a dent in. It's not middle class and low income people. And you know what? If they are evading taxes and you're poor, fuck them. They're poor. They don't... Who cares? Not paying taxes and fucking over the IRS isn't helping them in any way. They're poor. Still. Go fuck yourselves. Ugh. To tax what people earn, the federal government must learn people's incomes. Proponents of an income tax have never really had to balance that against the Fourth Amendment in the U.S. Constitution, which protects Americans from unreasonable search and seizures. It's easy to overlook the effect on privacy. To mitigate the threat, taxation in the United States generally operates as a self-reporting system. Duh! By the way, the IRS knows how much you fucking owe. And so when you don't pay that exact amount, then they audit you and they ruin you. So if they know how much you owe, just fucking take it. That's TurboTax is such a racket, and all those other companies that do that shit. The IRS has power to investigate cheating and compel payment of what's owed. In the early decades of the income tax, the threat to individual privacy wasn't so acute. Okay, then it goes on and on about invasion of privacy, which, again, this is. Really, Joe? You're not going to go after the giants in the world, especially in America, that are fucking you. The first thing I would do to try to get some money back is use the Panama Papers as a launching point. I would look at, okay, there was a few U.S. states that were used primarily to basically launder this money, hide it from taxes, and just kind of give it a tax shelter. I think it was like South Dakota, Utah, Miami. I don't know. I made Miami up. I don't remember. But there was a few states in there, and that's where I would go. If I was Joe Biden, I would freeze those banks. I don't know if he could do that. And say, okay, we got to look at all this shit. That's where you want to look at people's earnings and their comings and goings, is when you have physical evidence that shit is going on in this bank. Let's seize the motherfucker and go through it. Am I out of line here? I don't think so. I worked in banking during the banking crisis 2007 and 2008. I saw some wild shit getting done, and I agreed with the mass majority of it, although some of it was an invasion of privacy to a point, especially for small businesses. But I looked past a lot of it because, we're getting in a recession, and my generation was getting punted in the cunt the hardest. So you kind of, look past some things. But now that I'm a little older, a little wiser, I just can't help but think the more you give them, the more they're going to want to take. the odds of the government saying, we're done taking, this is exactly where we want it, that's not going to happen unless you live in a ethical society like the Scandinavians or the Europeans. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's corruption everywhere. So we're just fucked as a species is what I'm getting at, okay? Your information is already bought and sold without your permission. Russia, China, Iran, your own government of America can look at your shit whenever they want. So, well, fuck it. Let them look through all your shit. Who gives a fuck? It's ridiculous. But I'm done talking about the wealthy and corruption because I feel like my ears are bleeding. So let's move on. Well, I was going to do a segment about how this whole John Gruden racist, homophobic, misogynistic, whatever emails from over 10 years ago was being blown out of proportion. But literally, as I record this podcast, I got an update saying that he, quote unquote, resigned from the Raiders. Now, that's some bullshit. He was fired. And I guess more emails have surfaced where he uses more bad language. But my feeling hasn't changed on this. They're emails. Who gives a fuck what he says in an email? Now, he did say some awful words like faggot, like pussy, like, did he say anything racist? Everyone kept saying racism, but I never saw anything racist. But he used a racist trope to, well, they don't tell you what it is. But anyway, I find it hard to fire somebody from any position based on emails from over 10 years ago that person never actually acted on. Gruden reportedly referred to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell as a clueless, anti-football pussy as well as a faggot in emails released by the New York Times. Okay, that's just someone venting. I don't have a problem with that. Do I like the language? Of course not. But am I going to sit here and tell you that if I'm with a bunch of my buddies and we're drinking or smoking and having a good time, some big words don't get dropped? Of course they do. Do we mean them to be hateful or spiteful or anything? Of course not. It's with your friends. You're just fucking around. He also claimed the NFL pressured the then St. Louis Rams to draft Michael Sam, a gay player. Well, you know what? I remember reports that basically backed up that claim. But you know what? The St. Louis Rams did draft him, and they never played him. They cut him right away, and they said he just couldn't keep up. Is that true? I don't know. Should that be looked at? I don't know, because that seems like an actual action. This guy was openly gay. He got drafted late, and he got cut immediately. Do you want to investigate that at all? Because that's an actual action, not just words. Gruden also criticized Roger Goodell and the league for trying to reduce concussions and said that Eric Reed, a player who had demonstrated during the playing of the national anthem, should be fired. Well, again, that's just his opinion. Did he actually fire any Raiders players who took a knee? Not that I'm aware of. Now, if he did do that, fire him. Raiders owner Mark Davis met with John Gruden early Monday evening. The meeting ended with Gruden's tenure as Las Vegas head coach coming to an end. I don't know. Raiders coach John Gruden has resigned at the release of numerous offensive emails he sent from 2010 to 2018. Well, that's a little different. 2018, it's a couple of years ago. But again, words are words. I find it hard to fire somebody based on words from an email. Again, if he was homophobic, he would have cut Carl Nassib, who is a starting defensive end for the current Las Vegas Raiders. If John Gruden has always been homophobic, like he's being portrayed in his emails, he would have cut Nassib immediately upon hearing that Nassib was gay. He didn't. And he actually came out and applauded it. Now, was that applause genuine? I don't fucking know. But I think we also have to pull back here. He's a fucking football coach. Who gives a fuck what he says in an email? It's not like he's a politician or like a religious person who is talking about all this shit and then he doesn't back it up, because that's never happened. He's not a clergyman or a priest. He's a fucking football coach. Who cares if he says pussy or faggot or anything like that? I mean, come on. And again, it's one thing if he says it in an email or he jokes about it with his friends. But if he actually acts on these prejudices, that's where I would agree and say, you know what, he's got to go. You can look at this WSU coach, Nick Rolovich, this dumb fuck. He is just refusing to follow the rules of his job and get a vaccination. He's postponed it. And again, don't get me started on these exemptions that people get. Some of them are, I guess, valid. I have a hard time using the V word, valid, when it comes to vaccine exemptions. I think these religious exemptions get used inappropriately all of the motherfucking time. He believes the way he believes, and he doesn't think he needs it, June Jones says. June Jones coached with Rolovich at his old job in Hawaii. It's like I told him, it's not about him anymore. It's about the people around you and the credibility of the university, and he's got to take one for the team. This actually affects people. He can actually get someone sick from COVID, and that person can die. That's an actionable offense. John Gruden saying pussy on an email is not an actionable offense. Rolovich announced in July that he had declined the COVID-19 vaccine but kept his reasons private. A month later, Governor Inslee issued a mandate. The Washington Governor Inslee, for those of you that aren't in the state, issued a mandate requiring state employees, which he is, in higher education to get vaccinated by October 18th. The order allows for exemptions for medical and religious reasons. Well, there's your fuck up, Inslee. You shouldn't have put that in there. If he doesn't comply with the mandate, Rolovich could lose his job. Oh, too bad. Rolovich is the state's top paid employee. It just keeps getting better. The shit cream always rises to the top. He earns approximately $3 million annually with a contract that runs through 2024, and he is the face of the university's highest profile entity. Ridiculous. Rolovich is the only unvaccinated football coach in the Pac-12. Ridiculous. I mean, what the fuck kind of religious exemption could he be getting? A Scientology? Are you gonna? It's like joining a 1-week trial. You get a free trial, you binge watch the show, and then you cancel it. Rolovich, you're probably going to try to do that with some kind of religion. I'm thinking maybe Scientology or some shit, because they don't like taking vaccines. So yeah, you may fill out the brochure, put your name in, become a Scientologist for a couple weeks, so you get that exemption, and then you think you can cancel it. Nah, bitch. Those Scientologists don't fuck around. You're going to be getting phone calls in the night. You're going to get people dropping by your door. Oh, why haven't you kept up with your studies there, Rolovich? Did you just use this religious exemption to fuck over other people and spread a disease that you could or could not have? Is that what you're doing? But you still have a job. Okay, but John Gruden doesn't? Okay, I just want to make sure I understand this. Jesus Christ. I don't understand why this country always has to have almost a religious zealotry with Puritan ideologies being forced on each other. When I was a child, it was the evangelicals and Republicans that forced that kind of bullshit on you. And now that I'm 35, that religion, evangelical bullshit is still there. But now you have it with these younger kids and people my age are now believing in this. Well, you said faggot on a Twitter post in 2009, and even though it's 2021 and you have not had any growth as an individual since then, we are going to try to cancel you. Ridiculous. And they think they're doing it to better the world, but they're taking away this idea of personal growth, of progress with an individual, or just redemption. I mean, I would imagine people on the left, progressives, whoever, especially Gen Zs and millennials, are big believers on redemption, trying to take away the dealing with people only through consequences rather than rehabilitation. Unless you say something awful on social media 20 years ago, then none of those rules apply. They treat murderers better, former rapists better than they do people that are somewhat famous and said something bad once. Just like James Gunn getting fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That took 2 years for him to get back the movie. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. We wasted 2 years of James Gunn movie making. We could have had Guardians 3 by now. All because he said some bad jokes a long time ago, and a few fucking degenerates online, oh my god, he said a pedophilia joke. We must fire him. He makes movies for your entertainment, cocksucker. What the fuck is your problem? What are you doing to society? You just wake up every day, oh, I can't wait to open up some random celebrity's social media and scour for hours trying to find any shred of evidence that they once made a bad joke or a bad comment. I never do that. I'm perfect. My life is pristine. It's the celebrities that have life better than me. Those are the real scoundrels of the world. Ugh. It's fucking ridiculous. Bunch of fucktards running the country. Well, John Gruden, I don't know if you deserve to get fired. I didn't know those emails went up to 2018. However, they are still emails. Now, unless some evidence comes out or some former players come out that I agree in, or former coaches that I believe says, yeah, he said all those words, and then he actually backed up those words by doing this to me or doing this to this person or, or doing something actionable, physical, then I will say, you know what, he probably should have been fired. But just because he said some big words on an email a couple years ago, ridiculous. But anyway, let's move on. 4 hurt after student opens fire during fight at Timberview High School in Arlington, Texas. Now, the only reason I'm talking about this school shooting, because let's face facts, we have them all the time, that this one is unique in the sense that this school shooter, which thank God no one actually died. People got fucked up, mind you, but no one actually died as of yet. That this school shooter was black. And I was really trying hard to come up with when was the last time I saw a school shooting that was being done by a black male or a black student at all. I could not remember. And so my initial reaction was, okay, first off, you're trying to assimilate my culture here, okay? Shooting up schools is a white Caucasian activity, okay? Don't steal my culture, okay, black people? School shootings are ours. And mall shootings and movie theater shootings and concert shootings. Pretty much any mass shooting outside of gang-on violence belongs to us white people. So, okay, stop taking our culture, okay? It's not cute. It's not funny. How would you like it if I did black things, okay? Which I'm not going to name here because I want my podcast to get posted on YouTube. You would think that quarantine would have maybe calmed some kids down, but no, these school shootings are coming back with a force. I think I covered last podcast or 2 podcasts ago those kids in Florida that were going to reenact Columbine, and they had all this shit planned. They were 13 and 14, and they bought weapons on the black market. Like, what is happening to society? Oh, boy. Anyway, I'm done talking politics and news. It's getting depressing. I'm talking about black kids shooting up schools, which my head still can't wrap itself around. But, hey, let's talk about the good old days. Let's turn the clock back to 1995, 1996, 1997. If I ever run for president, like the voices in my head tell me to do, I would use a slogan similar to Donald Trump's "Let's Make America Great Again." However, I hate that saying because it implies that the current state of America is some dumpster fire dog shit, which is not true or accurate whatsoever. But what I would have a slogan would be something around of, let's continue making America great. And I would talk about when I was a kid in the mid-90s. Do you know what made me happy? Being with my friends that were all different races, not different religions, but different races, and different economic standing. We would all get together and we'd all would do things that we all shared an interest in. And one of them was watching movies. And I want to bring up a few movies in particular and praise them for the genius that they brought into the lives of, I would say, middle school kids from the mid-90s. And those movies are Con Air, Broken Arrow, Face Off, The Rock, Crimson Tide, and Enemy of the State. I'm not going to do a deep dive into all 6 of these movies, but I will say that I wasted plenty of days in my youth during the summer being at my friend Kirk's house with my friend Jared, my friend Sean, my friend another Jared, maybe Shane and John. I don't know. I could be combining friend groups, but I remember there was a few of us. And Kirk's family had a beautiful home. Just giant. To me, it was a mansion. But then again, anything not an apartment was a mansion to me back then. They had the best snacks. We'd get pizza. There was always soda and fruit juice. And god damn it, would we watch Con Air and Face Off and The Rock all the fucking time. And then later saw Broken Arrow. We made fun of Broken Arrow, but we still loved it. And I loved Crimson Tide and Enemy of the State. I used to watch it with my mom and sister all the goddamn time. And I got to reminiscing about these movies with my friend Kevin, who came over on the weekend. We were playing some video games together and just shooting the shit, listening to a podcast called Cumtown. Very vulgar name. A bunch of white boys bitching about society. Oh, what a lovely thing. Completely unique. You don't have many of those in the world. And they were covering a lot of their movies from their childhood, and we were roughly the same age. And so I started to talk with Kevin, like, you know what? There's not movies like this anymore. If you think about it. Con Air had A-plus talent after A-plus talent after A-plus talent. 90s Nicolas Cage, I would argue, was and will always remain the best Nicolas Cage. You got 90s John Cusack. You got crazy motherfucker John Malkovich. You got Ving Rhames. You have Danny Trejo. Steve Buscemi plays a cannibal. And who else? There's some other big names in that movie. I'm drawing a blank. Ugh, it's killing. Dave Chappelle was in the movie. And, oh God, some of the other prisoners were famous people too. Oh, Bubba from Forrest Gump is in that movie. I mean, it's just a fucking amazing cast movie. And the premise of the movie is so fucking stupid. I mean, if I remember correctly, Nicolas Cage is some, like, Navy SEAL, Green Beret, danger to society that the government made. And he's at a bar, cliche redneck bar, with his hot blonde white wife, who I don't remember if she ever made it. And a couple of guys were making a pass at her, and he said, all right, now just back it up. Nicolas Cage's dumb southern accent in that movie. Sure enough, those guys meet him outside the bar. It's pouring rain. They try to rape the wife and beat up Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage, being a weapon of the state, takes out the trash. And even though it was self-defense, the judge says, you know what? The U.S. military made you a dangerous weapon, so we're going to throw you in prison. Doesn't fucking make any sense. And then the movie is bonkers after that. But Jesus Christ, that movie was so much fun. I don't think they have movies like that anymore. I mean, that was an R-rated action comedy. Do they make those anymore? The Deadpool movies are kind of like that, even though they're kind of superhero-y. I'm trying to think. The Ocean's 11 movies, they're not rated R and not action. I guess those old people movies when they had like John Malkovich and Helen Mirren and Morgan Freeman called Red or something. But those were movies for old people. I'm talking about... But see, every movie I think about now, like the Transformers movies, are all so CGI. Like, if I remember right, Con Air didn't use a lot of CGI, if any, because it was the mid-90s, and that shit was expensive. Oh, God, I would love it if they make movies like Con Air again. Practical effects, A-plus talent, ludicrous plot, but it all makes entertainment. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's fun. Broken Arrow, same kind of deal. John Travolta in an action movie? Are you kidding me? Christian Slater, badass. Face Off is probably my second favorite action movie in the 90s after Con Air. Fucking Travolta, fucking Nicolas Cage, another bonker scenario. I'm going to take off his face and I'm going to wear it, and then I'm going to infiltrate prison to get secrets from his brother. What kind of bonkers ass shit is this? The Rock, even more wild. Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris, Sean Connery, breaking into Alcatraz. What? Now, Crimson Tide is a little bit more mellower, but again, a lot of A-plus talent. Viggo Mortensen, James Gandolfini, a lot that launched their careers. Then you got, of course, Denzel and Gene Hackman, and I think there's another jabroni in that movie I'm drawing a blank on. But that was a good political suspense movie. My mother and my sister loved that movie. I used to watch it all the time. Enemy of the State. Again, is there a better Will Smith than 90s Will Smith? Independence Day. Drawing a blank. What else? Oh, Men in Black. Other movies that I can't think of right now. Wild Wild West. Hey, I love that movie when I was a kid. Is it a fucking awful movie? Duh. But to a 12 or 13-year-old, yeah, it was fun. Oh, man. Enemy of the State opened me up to not believing in the government all the time. The government doesn't always have your the best outcome for you in mind. A lot of them are seedy, corrupt people that we should do what the Saudi Arabians did. But I already talked about that. But Jason Lee's in that movie. Gene Hackman's in that movie. John Voight, Tom Sizemore, Pre-Heroin. I mean, Jesus. Those movies were just mindless entertainment. And we have that now. We do. I mean, that's never going to go away in this society. And by the way, I watched the latest Bill Maher. His new rule segment was about the slow-moving coup. He's done this before in previous episodes. And it scared the shit out of me. And that was the point of it. But then I started to think, well, he really didn't talk about some factors that should be addressed when you're talking about the future of the American government for the next 4 to 5 years, when you're talking about a slow-moving coup. And, of course, Bill Maher's talking about Trump running for re-election in 2024 because there's no other Republican running that's more popular than Trump. And if it's Trump versus Biden 2.0, even if Biden squeaks out a victory, which I'm not so sure of, Bill Maher foresees both candidates saying they won, even though the evidence is showing that Biden won. Trump will then still decry fake news, rigged election, I won, I'm the greatest, my penis is not mushroom-shaped. And what are you going to do when you have two presidential candidates showing up on the same day to be sworn in? And then, of course, Bill Maher goes through these imaginary scenarios, which some of them were realistic to me. Some of them were being dramatic and being blown out of proportion. But the fact remains that could be a possibility. However, he did not talk about COVID. The deaths from COVID-19 primarily are older Republican voters. That's not to say they're only Republican voters. No. I really should pull up the numbers here. I don't know, but just for the sake of this argument, forgive me, this is not going to be accurate, but let's say 800,000 people have died from COVID. If you look at 800,000 people in the United States that died from COVID, I would say 65 to 70% of those deaths were evangelical Republican voters, all a little bit older. I'm talking retirement age. That's going to take away a lot of votes, baby. Because those deaths, they may drop, but they're not going to go away because those people still aren't getting vaccinated. So if the Republicans lose enough votes because their voters are dying based on shit they're spewing, then shit, the midterms and the 2024 election may not be that much of a fucking dramatic headache. But who knows? But with that, I think we can wrap this podcast up. Jesus, I meandered a lot of shit today. Last thing I'll say before I do wrap up, my buddy perfectly summed up how I feel about the whole John Gruden thing getting fired, Rolovich not getting fired, and cancel culture, blah, blah, blah. I draw the line at invading someone's privacy to cancel them for things that have no actionable consequences. That is what's happened. They invaded John Gruden's privacy by digging up these past emails for the sole purpose of canceling him. What you say in your private correspondence is your business and the business of whoever you were conversing with. My buddy hits it out of the park on that one. Completely nails it in my opinion. So with that, we truly are wrapping up here. I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And just, treat others as you want to be treated. All right? Don't be a cocksucker all the time, okay? Be nice. Be nice. We have to live together. We have to share this fucking planet. Let's stop being assholes to one another. I was at Trader Joe's the other day. Wasn't even thinking about it. I was waiting for the Trader Joe's employee to load up the eggs, because I need eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. What can I say? An older woman, probably in her 60s, was next to me. I didn't even look at her, but I knew someone was next to me. Turns out she did not have a mask on. I didn't pick this up. I really, I don't care anymore. I stay to myself. I get my shit done. I get the hell out. So she walks up to the Trader Joe's employee and kind of just grabs an egg carton without getting in the employee's way. And I heard the employee say, "Oh, ma'am, do you have a mask? You have to wear a mask in here. There's a mandate." That's how she said it. No attitude, no bitchiness, nothing. Just, "Oh, ma'am, do you have a mask? You have to wear a mask to shop here. There's a mandate." Now, I didn't hear what the customer said, but the customer, her body language was starting to get a little rigid. Her started using her hands a little bit, and then she whipped out, kind of dramatically, a mask that she had in her pocket. So she did have a mask. I thought at the time, maybe the customer was apologizing. "Oh, I can't believe I came in here without a mask. I'm sorry. I know there's a mandate. I know there's signs everywhere. I just forgot to put it on. Forgive me." Or something. You don't even have to say forgive me. Just say, "Oh, I have them. Sorry." And put it on. That's it. End of discussion. But she kept saying something. And finally, the employee looked at her and said, "Ma'am, there is a mandate from the Governor Inslee in the state of Washington. We have signs everywhere that require a mask. Can you please just put the mask on?" Again, no attitude. Nothing. And the woman kept badgering. And so finally, I lost my shit, and I walked over to get my eggs, and I looked at this woman who, again, how privileged is this bitch's life? She's still not yelling, but I could tell she was being still vocal about her displeasure at, "Oh, I have to wear a mask in a store for a little bit." And the employee is just doing her job. She doesn't get paid enough to get yelled at by some white fucking Karen cunt. And this woman kept going, and the employee wasn't saying anything. And I looked over at the customer. I said, "Jesus fucking Christ, lady." And both people stopped talking, looked at me, and the old woman put the mask on and walked away. And I said, "Goddamn right." I put my foot down, and I yelled obscenities at a woman. Oh, God bless America. All right, everybody, I'm out. Love y'all.